I think it's a very important topic, leadership in the era of AI. Across the globe, the expectations of leadership, as we know, are evolving faster than ever before. In 2025, more than 60% of knowledge workers, which is what most of us are here in this room, are operating in a hybrid or fully remote environment. And this is challenging the traditional models of leadership, of course. And then add to that the rapid adoption of artificial intelligence, a continued increase in the automation of repetitive tasks, and then the broader availability of digital collaboration tools are really, really pushing against that traditional model of leadership. In spite of sort of all of these pressures, companies may or may not be thinking very well or very innovatively about how to transform the way in which we've been training leaders. And it is especially important for us as women to be concerned with this topic because we need to redefine that model of leadership in order to achieve more and more. So to get us started off, the first panelist is Dr. Julia Sperling Magro, and she works here as a partner at McKinsey & Company. She's many accolades, but to save time, I'm only going to give a very brief bio. You can read the rest of it in your programs because I want to make sure we have time for questions at the end. So she is a neuroscientist, a tenured partner at McKinsey & Company, and during her 21 years at McKinsey, she's built healthcare presence in the Middle East and set up various signature leadership programs for men and women in Saudi Arabia. Doctor?
Let's see. Thank you very much. And I know it's the time of the day where we have to be a bit speedy with one another, so I'll go and present 3 themes to you in 15 minutes, so 5 minutes each. I said I cannot talk about leadership in the era of AI without speaking about what leadership itself will entail. That's number 1. Number 2, I'd love to give you some insights into the latest leadership development programs that are currently happening, leading companies around the world. And then 3, for those of you closer to the people function, I'd love to show you what Gen AI is also doing to the people function itself and what opportunity it has. So that's 15 minutes. If you give me 1 minute at the end, I do have a couple of life hacks for you with which you write next week can also change the way that you yourself think and act about leadership development in the era of Gen AI. So what's this leadership model? Of course, future leaders, all of us, have to be tech savvy, clear. Even more importantly, all of us will have to really train our critical thinking muscle, because we can only have value-based judgment if we are able to filter all the information that comes to us with a truly critical mind. And then thirdly, and that's what I'd like to focus around here, is the proposal of a new approach to leadership that puts the human in the center. It wouldn't be McKinsey & Company if there were no numbers behind it, which I'm going to show you right now. Organizations with human-centered leadership are overall more resilient. They have, not surprisingly, a higher talent retention, and we all know we have to be careful with causality and correlation. I see some scientists in the group as well. Their company's performance also correlates with the culture of human-centeredness that they are able to instill. So what does this very concretely mean? Well, in May we published a paper on how women CEOs around the world lead. And they also said, I am leading, and that's the point number 1 on this very slide, I'm leading in a more human-centered way than my male colleagues do. They say something fascinating also, which is point number 2, and I'm sure many of you have this in their daily business lives as well. The balancing of attributes that seem to be contradicting one another. So boldness with vulnerability, confidence with the ability to be humble. So those women CEOs around the world said exactly being able to balance is one of the core skills that we truly need. And then, of course, being able to practice system-wide thinking remains important to them. Had we more time, I would go around this very circle with you. But if you'd like to take a picture of it and just ask yourself, if those are the 12 attributes, 6 more personal, 6 more around leading organizations, of this future-centered leader that we need in the era of AI, which would be the 2 or 3 that you would choose? And where would you see this balance that I described for the female CEOs that you'd like to strike? That was a very fast version of human centricity in leadership in the context of being tech-savvy, in the context of deploying values-based judgment with critical thinking. Now, what are companies doing to enable this and to, frankly, technically upskill their organizations? I brought a couple of examples, 1 to 5 here for you, and we go through one by one. I'll also make the material available because each of them has a case study attached to it. Number 1. I like this telco example a lot because what it does, it did a company-wide enabling on Gen AI, and they had 2 secret sources. Number 1, they truly figured out who their super users are. For all of you working in transformations and change, we had this theme of change agents. Well, in the age, in the era of AI, it's the super users. So they identified the super users and asked them, what is it that you currently deploy? What is it that convinced you to be a user as much as you are right now? That's not the only special thing they did. The other thing they did very well is they worked with their most senior leaders. And they worked with them on a one-on-one basis. You would be surprised how little knowledge there still is, or little knowledge and appetite to literally get your hands dirty and start using technology, and in particular, the new opportunities that Gen AI offers. So the second secret source of this very training, in addition to identifying the super users, was to work one-on-one with the most senior executives and ensuring they had the aha moments on why Gen AI can work for them. The second one is from a global consumer goods company. And if you're thinking of how to get, in particular, your executives around you interested in the theme of Gen AI, assuming that they aren't yet, follow this example. You know what they did? They did global world tours of watching peers who weren't as far as they were, but also watching tech companies in terms of what's currently already possible when it comes to Gen AI. So real-life experience, you can say a lot, you can hear a lot of speeches around it. When you see in actions that coaches turn into Gen AI that reply to your direct feedback and help you improve, it's a very different story. So that's number 2. Number 3 is a professional service firm. They really picked up on the word of human-centric in the era of AI. So what they've done is they said, in order for us to ensure that our organizations truly adopt Gen AI, all of our leaders need to become coaches. So what they did is they literally took their most senior leaders one by one and gave them a training that normally only professional coaches would get. Then I come to one more, and then my favorite one, number 5. Number 4 is a tech company. And I don't know if you heard the FOBO word. I didn't know it until I was working with this very company. The FOBO word is the fear of becoming obsolete. And as a neuroscientist, if you ask me what's at the very heart of many, many senior executives and even non-executives not adopting AI yet, it lies in the fact of who am I as a person, what is happening to my very role if what they say about the potential of AI truly becomes reality. I'm somewhat convinced of the training. I think one could be even doing more. So what they literally did is help people discuss, bring it to the table, and then openly do reflection exercises and deeper mindset work with them. If you feel that this is something happening in all your organizations, what you can learn from this example is to make it something one speaks about, and not only hearing the passive aggressiveness of, it won't work, I've seen it, it hallucinates, I've seen it, it gave me wrong results, etc., which might all be true, and I encourage critical thinking, as you heard me. But this fear of being no longer relevant and becoming obsolete is real. Now, my favorite example, number 5 for you, imagine this very bank where they've designed the perfect, literally the perfect training for leaders on Gen AI. They had never seen such a high adoption rate of training, and they've never seen such a high satisfaction rate with the training itself. There's one little but to it. Luckily, they checked to what extent after the training executives actually used Gen AI. And while 95+% loved the training, under 9% used afterwards the new tool that they were actually trained upon. It might make us smile, it's very sad, so the big question becomes, whenever you go also yourself through such a training, whenever you lead your organization through this training, how do you bring the skills into the teams? What they've done is they then took a team-by-team approach. They said every team should become a high-performing team empowered by already existing Gen AI, and they worked on team-by-team basis, and literally were able to free up significant amount of time for more strategic work from their people. Yeah. So even if you mastered all the quick tips and tricks that I've given on Gen AI leadership development program, do ask the question of, and who is using it to what extent afterwards? I'll ensure the other panelists also have time. So as you see, there's a case study behind each one of them. Now you see the telco. I don't seem to be able to click, there we go, further. There we go, there we go, there we go, there we go. And some success factors just as reminders. So for these trainings, and in order to avoid the pitfall that this financial services institution, that bank had at the very end, do make this Gen AI theme real for your leaders. Everyone taking a training needs to be able to answer the question, why are you taking this very training, and how will concretely it help you tomorrow? And sometimes some sort of a gamified approach helps a lot. Now, I promised a third thing. I said I'm only going to show you very briefly how this whole function, the function of people, of culture, of the HR department in your organization, will have to shift in the context of AI to deliver this. There we go. Now, this is an overview of overall automation and the possibility within HR. I'm not going to walk you through all the different buckets. The so what of this chart, it's simply huge. When you look at leadership development on its own, so it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those little bubbles on this very, very chart, think of ways that now 360-degree feedback can be collected easily, can be interpreted for you, can be even discussed with you live by the help of Gen AI. So this very people function, I'm just going to describe it briefly, will need to change in the way it's operating and in the way it considers its mandates. You need some very frictionless, some very personalized approach towards developing your very leaders. And I can't resist to show you one, we won't go through the details, to show you two charts actually. One is what I'm saying here in terms of the future of the people function. Again, it wouldn't be McKinsey if there weren't some numbers in here that confirmed what I've been describing. This has huge efficiency potential, that's clear, and we all know it. But it also has effectiveness and experience potential for all organizations developing it. And then my favorite one, you don't have to look into detail, what it would look like is a bit like this, but think of your HR function today and think of an HR function in the future where you have data scientists, where you have technologists, where you have HR strategists working seamlessly together, and much more strongly than today, asking the business to step in to develop the leaders that sit in this very business. Now, I promised a +1 for my last minute, and you can decide yourself whether you're rather the strategist already experienced or the visionary when it comes to this very transformation. But maybe a minute of reflection on yourself at this very end. When you look at what your organization and what yourself could be doing, so the life hacks for the next week, ask yourself on the following: where do you stand on those 10 points from an organizational perspective? The point number 1 is chosen as the point number 1 because it speaks about purpose, and it's a real purpose that I'm referring to here. So if your organization knows why it exists, then it will be able to deal with any complexity around the world. Ask yourself also, when I do not only look at this as an organization, but if I look at this as a very leader, again, I'd love to point your attention to this very first statement here. Be before do. Decide who it is that you want to be as a leader in this very world, how you are personally going to bring together tech savviness, critical thinking, and human-centered leadership. I want to thank you very much for your attention, and also I promised I would not do it. I can't resist. In this very corner there's a little boy sitting who's my son, and he's been told at school that it's not cool to play with girls. So I brought him today to show him that it's very cool to collaborate with girls and look at the women that they can become. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you. Very, very amazing talk. I definitely love the human-centric approach, which is, I think, the superpower of every single woman leader here. Next up, we're going to, thank you, Dr. Magdo. Tessa Farina-Zauner, who is the Director of Tech for People at Mercedes-Benz Group AG here in Germany. Tessa is leads an international HR and IT organization, and her role is at the forefront of driving the digital transformation of HR at scale. Please, Tessa.
Everybody's awake now?
Yes.
So I'm going to pick up a few things you said because I think they're very important, and then try to make some references. Why is it important from my perspective to talk about leadership in the era of AI? Well, because the world, the way we work, the way we lead, and the way people expect to be led have changed. I will also talk about 3 things. The rapid evolvement, and you have mentioned some of the numbers AI has taken, new paradigms for leaders, and lower it a bit. I'm a little less tall than you. And 3 easy to implement hacks, picking up on some of the things you said. So looking at a few numbers, AI has become an integral part of our daily work life and maybe even our daily lives. And there is so much more potential to come. If we just look at the 2 numbers, there are 44% of worker skills that are or were expected to change, and over 50% expected to change the way they work today and tomorrow. And these numbers are from 2023. So I think each and every one of us has experienced throughout the last 2 years already what AI, for many, those are the examples of Perplexity, ChatGPT, etc., can do for us, but we have not explored the full potential that is there to come. Talking about the full potential, within the next 3 years, 15% expect their work decisions to be taken over by agentic AI, which just shows the potential we all have going even beyond that. And to handle this change proactively, we need to prepare ourselves and we need to prepare our teams. Now, if we look at the rapid evolvement of AI, we need to point out that this development is a speed that has never been there before. You can see here some of the most used words applications that maybe some of you have been using or not. And only a little while back, it took these applications years to be developed, launched, and to have a global impact in terms of reaching at least 100 million users. Now, for ChatGPT, this has changed. It changed the way speed has been defined. How long did it take for ChatGPT to reach 1 million users? Does anyone know? Not quite. We're talking 2 months, but 2 months from, up to 6 years. There is a quote, and I'm just going to repeat it twice because I love it so much. It's not on this slide, but it has been used at Davos and then picked up by many global company leaders. The pace of change has never been this fast, but it will never be this slow again. The change of pace has never been this fast, but it will never be this slow again, and we all need to adapt to that. So I say the race is on, and it comes along with a new reality of leadership, a new reality of working, and a new reality of being led. So I think we can all see this in this room and in this event. The world is becoming more remote, hybrid, and global. You mentioned that. Look at this room. We're becoming more network-oriented, we're becoming more data-driven, and we're developing from linear career paths to way more agile roles and upskilling. And I'll talk about why this is important, especially for us as leaders. While upskilling is important and the new normal, there is still so much way to go. Picking out a few numbers again, we have over 60% of employees who cite skill gaps as the main transformational barrier to their development and to business transformation. Over 80%, almost 90%, increase in demand of AI and data literacy is expected within the next few years, while almost 50% of executives believe their workforce to be unprepared for this future. I say, of course, it's not up to a single person, to a leader, to shape this path in terms of where do we develop. But at the same time, I strongly believe that it is up to us to empower our teams to have the space to reskill, to upskill, to evolve, and to lead by example. You also mentioned that. So there is a new paradigm for leaders. Everybody's talking about AI will replace workspaces, etc. Yes, maybe. It will not replace leaders per se, but it will replace leaders who do not understand AI. So leaders who do not understand AI will definitely be replaced by the ones who do. What does that mean for us? What leadership skills do we need going forward? And I mean, there is a mix between being on a meta level, what do we need going forward, and a few concrete examples that we can take step by step to really foster that mindset. We are rewriting our leadership books, and we need to rewrite them again and again because the speed of change has never been this fast. So as for adaptability and continuous learning, everybody knows the terms of a growth mindset. This becomes especially important in terms of data and AI literacy. We do not all need to be tech nerds, no, but we do need to stand the underlying foundation in terms of machine learning, in terms of LLMs, etc., to understand where these algorithms, etc., are coming from and how we can handle them consciously, how we can evaluate their biases, and how we can decide how to put them to best use within our daily works. Inclusive leadership also includes cultural intelligence. So what becomes more and more important, you also pick up on that a bit, are that all voices are being heard and valued. And this is valid for an online and for an offline world, because this is the basis on how these models are trained. Third, innovation and tech savviness is using data-driven decision-making. And I believe we see that with the numbers we picked out. It becomes so much more important to have valid data to the decisions we're taking to make them more transparent and to guide our actions up in them. This is not done just by the AI. It's always the AI combination with human in the loop, where we need to see what are the potential biases behind it, what does the number speak for, and how can I integrate it into my daily work and out into the decisions I'm taking. Now, paradoxically, the more we integrate AI into our work, the more valuable human interpersonal skills become. So it's about empathy, it's about motivating others, it's about cultural sensitivity, and about coaching. The premium on social emotional skills is rising more than ever in a time where we speak about tech first. As of today, and I'm going to quote a McKinsey number here, it's a little old, but I still think it's valid. The most tech roles are still held by men. And I say, let's be bold. Our, referring to women, but also referring to everyone, our time, your time has come. Let's repeat history and step into the footsteps of some, or enable others to step into the footsteps of some of the many great women that have led to where we are today. I'm just going to name a few examples because I'm always amazed by what they have done for us. Ada Lovelace, who was considered the world's first computer programmer in the 19th century, in a time where women were largely excluded from tech fields, she laid the foundation for modern computing today in the 19th century. Bertha Benz, of course, I'm coming from Mercedes, so I cannot not quote her, who took her husband's automobile for the first long-distance journey in 1888 and thus laid the foundation for future mobility. Or, as shown on this picture, Evie, who won the Grand Prix in Argentina in 1962 or so, with a Mercedes-Benz 220 SE for the automobile enthusiast here, with a 3-hour lead up front from everybody else. It was the first time that 2 women won one of the world's toughest long-distance rallies. Now, success has never come easy, not to them and not to anyone. It's always about learning. And you said it, learning itself, you can have the best learning program, you can learn from theory, you can learn from doing, but most importantly, you can learn from mistakes. So it's always about learn, unlearn, and relearn. You have to question yourself, what I learned yesterday, is that still valid today? Where can I learn from my mistakes? Where can I learn from successes? And where can I share those? I'm going to end with a few best practices that we have put to use in our organization that may help you to put them into your organizations or into your daily actions as well. Shift from static to dynamic learning. A few learning programs have been mentioned before. We strongly believe that replacing one-size-fits-all learning programs with personalized on-demand learning will help to make this shift happen. An example, we launched an AI learning program for our global employee team with micro-learning nuggets. So every day I can get 2 minutes of micro-learning nuggets with a few hands-on tips and tricks on how to use internal AI mechanisms, etc., and then use them in that day that I have learned them. Or make use of reverse mentoring as is shown here. And no, it's a very simple example, but maybe some of the most junior talents you have in your organization are the most senior experts in AI. So use those skills. Talking about the second one, use AI to enhance leadership decisions. Take data-driven decisions. Many have KPI dashboards in their company. They are good for transparency, but also for using predictive analytics in terms of what are future sickness rates, what talent skills do I need in the future, where do I need to develop on a skill-based journey, etc. And third, embed digital and human skills. These might be the easiest one to implement, yet the hardest one that's actually being implemented. Use LLMs, use chatbots in your daily life. I do have a very fulfilling job, as probably everyone in this room. I have a 1-year-old daughter. I have a husband who wants to spend time with me, and I want to spend time with him. I have hobbies. So I use chatbots regularly to just see how I can reorganize my calendar. I have not made that work yet in terms of that I really are happy with it, but I try to do so. An example that we implemented in our organization is, for example, ChatRD, so a chatbot that talks to our regulations internally. We have regulations in our company that equal to about 5,000 pages, just internal regulations. That's the entire series of Harry Potter and even one more book. You would need 140 hours to read those. With the chatbot, you can find the answer, use then your decision-making, and help your employees find the right decisions based on the regulations, but not reading the whole entire Harry Potter session before making that decision. Now, it's easy, and yet it's hard. I want to call up on each and every one of us to just make it day one, start now, be the leader you want to be, and help your team and empower them to use those tools the best way they can to and upskill, to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's so important, that theme of adaptability and continuous learning. I think it's been part of every leadership profile study that has ever been done, probably in the last 30 years, about how it's one of the most important skills to be an effective leader. Okay, next up, we have the amazing Anka Domscheit-Berg. She is part of the German host committee and why we're here in Berlin for the Global Summit of Women, so thank you so much. And she is also a former member of the Bundestag. She has an amazing career really talking about violence against women. She's not just a leader, she's a groundbreaker, really. And more recently, talking about digital violence against women. She has pushed the Bundestag to hold hearings on digital violence and violence against women, and also headed up the Commission on AI in the Bundestag during her 8 years there, leading also digital policy there as well. She is actually a last-minute sub. She's going to be amazing and wonderful because she's an expert, I know. So you won't find in the program her picture next to this panel, but her bio is in the program because she is one of the hosts. Anka, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. One note before, Annalena Hodenberg was planned to be here, but she is ill and actually really suffering. Sends her regards. She would have done a fine job. I try to do it kind of overnight. Hence, no fancy slides, but I hope interesting insights. I will talk about a new leadership challenge, confronting AI-based workplace harassment. I will give you some context about digital violence and AI-based violence before that. The German Federal Criminal Authority described digital violence the fastest growing form of violence against women. It is present in all societal contexts. It starts with children and their educational context, in class chats, for example, in school chats, on social media platforms. You see it in relationships, or rather ex-relationships. You also see it at the workplace and basically in all societal environments. Women and people of color are disproportionately targeted, regardless of the type of digital violence or the societal context. Digital violence comes in many variations, not just AI-based. I will briefly highlight some of the others before I come to the AI part. There is cyber stalking, for example, where you can follow somebody not just in the analog world, but also in the entire digital life of somebody. There is doxing, where you public the private address of a person, so she can be targeted there. There's a lot of digital violence related to domestic violence by partners or often ex-partners. We have revenge porn, non-consensual, circulating nude pictures and videos. We have all sorts of surveillance, unwanted, of course. We have something, there's even a name for those apps. It's called spouseware, should be called ex-spouseware very often, where men illegally and non-consensual load apps to smartphones of their wives or ex-wives. Or they implant little household devices like hooks for towels with implanted hidden cameras. You can buy those things on Amazon for $20. Or they use tracking devices like AirTags from Apple. You know them, very practical for tracking your suitcase. But if you drop it in the handbag of your ex-wife, of girlfriend, or put it in a stuffed animal of your joint kid, you can track her anywhere, even in a protected house. But there is also manipulation of IoT devices, manipulating remotely internet routers, locking or opening remotely smart doors, or in the middle of the night switching on the light or switching it off. Music going on, heat going on and off, just as somebody wants to. And then there are what most people know most about, the entire topic of hate speech and threats, digital threats, rape threats, for example, often anonymously on social media platforms or directly per email. And then there are the deepfakes. And now we come to the AI part. So it's just one part of many parts of digital violence. Deepfakes are when you use generative AI to mimic real people in a very realistic way. There exist many deepfake tools by now. They are very easily available to anybody. You can convincingly impersonate somebody with pictures, with audio, with video. Even in real time, especially for audio, it's extremely easy to do that today. And you only need 3 seconds of recorded audio to generate further audio fake. And you can't hear it. Not even experts, it's very difficult. The tools are very user-friendly, readily available, so everybody can do it. It scales fast, and that's dangerous. And then combine this with algorithms on social media platforms, and then that content can even go viral and do even more harm. Deepfakes are not necessarily bad. There are some legitimate use cases. If you want to have fun with friends and family, you can make deepfakes of yourself, of course. You can have art, you can have actors deepfaked with their consent, and then they fly on dragons in movies and things like that. You can use it in education. In my state, the state of Brandenburg, there's a very cool police officer who is very present at Instagram, and he uses live deepfakes to teach children and their parents how you can easily deepfake a minor being an old white male adult. So he uses this for raising awareness for cyber grooming. So there are some good deepfakes. You can use it in a transparent and consensual way, but then there are all the others. Illegal, harmful, dangerous use cases. We know them from outside the workplace, but it depends on the workplace. So if we talk about disinformation and election interference, my workplace was the German Bundestag, the parliament. So of course it was interfering with my workplace. When you have deepfakes on you, which I did not have, but Kamala Harris had this. There were robocalls deepfaking Joe Biden. There have been fake sexual pictures of a Polish politician right before the elections. And we have the entire area of harassment and abuse, like having fake footage or voice cloned, showing victims in embarrassing situations. But we also have face-swapped videos from pornographic platforms. So you just exchange the face, so it looks like me, for example. And you have the AI-generated nude images, and those can be circulated widely. And there are, as I mentioned before, readily available tools. One even, nomen as omen, is called clothes off. You can just picture somebody and then you see her naked. There exist even entire platforms just for pornographic deepfakes. Whole platforms. Generative AI is being weaponized to harm women. There was an analysis of 15,000 deepfake videos online. 96% of all those videos are non-consensual, intimate content. And 100% of examined content on the top 5 deepfake pornography websites targeted women. 100%. The victims included celebrities, that's their workplace, female politicians, that would have been mine, journalists, but also private individuals who all have workplaces somewhere. But the topic today is AI-based harassment at the workplace and what leadership needs to do, and that is what I want to talk about now. We have to differentiate two standard situations. One, somebody unknown does this outside the company, like the ex-boyfriend of an employee, or you don't know who it is because it's anonymous. Or there's one employee harassing another one inside the same company. Both have implications for employees, for the company, and that means management needs to act. Attribution, by the way, is very difficult. So very often you don't know whether it's this one situation, outsider against insider, or employee against employee in the same company. Very often do not know. But some cases are more directly related to the workplace. Like if you have a face swap video, like from those pornographic platforms, and then you circulate this in an employee communication channels, or you send it to the supervisor and manager of that person. What are managers doing about it? How do co-workers react? How does that employee feel and behave? That is an interesting question. The impact on employees can be devastating, regardless whether it's an internal or external offender. But circulation of those content in a work environment, in the own work environment, can cause extra harm. Just imagine another use case. There's a fake misconduct footage or a voice clone confession of misconduct, and somebody sends it anonymously to HR. How is HR reacting? Whom are they believing? What they see and hear, although it may be fake? Imagine another case, a voice or video clone of a manager leading an employee to harming the company, for example, by transferring money to illegitimate accounts. That happened in 2024 to a Hong Kong company who lost $24 million this way. That's usually criminals wanting the money, but theoretically it could also be somebody who wants to damage a certain employee because, of course, they will lose their jobs. AI harassment on the workplace has real consequences on real people. It will harm employees' mental and physical well-being and hence performance. When a woman is targeted with such a type of deepfake, the damage is immediate, even if later on it's proven false. The doubt will injure, a promotion may be lost, the whisper network grows. Digital violence has negative psychosocial impact, and science has shown that the impact, the consequences are just as harmful as after a physical injury. It can lead to post-traumatic stress disorder, to depression, to sleep issues, anxiety, low self-esteem, and insecurity. Victims are impacted as human beings in their life quality, but of course also in their work ability. Their careers can be damaged and their potential not fully developed. It may even lead to loss of talent, because if, for example, all colleagues and managers know about an embarrassing fake nude pic or video of a female employee, just imagine how she feels. Everybody looks at her strange in the canteen, they laugh about her, they mock her probably. She will very likely leave this workplace. There can also be a reputation damage for employees, but also for the company. And by the way, it can also hit a woman in leadership. Could be a senior vice president being a fake porn target. Most often, companies are very unprepared. And here is why. They treat deepfakes as a cybersecurity issue only. It can be one, but it's more than that. It is also a workplace harassment issue. They do not train managers and employees to recognize digitally manipulated abuse. A study showed that over 50% of leaders have no training at all for this. They are not aware of the many ways and how it can impact talent and management, how deepfakes, videos, images, and audio are being weaponized against women, or maybe people of colors, or LGBTQI employees. They have no processes in place, no structures, they are not prepared to protect employees, and they lack protocols for verifying digital content before acting on it. More than 60% of leaders admitted to not having any protocols in place for deep fake threats. A Business.com study 1 year ago from June 2004 showed only 16% of leaders said that they have a thorough knowledge about deepfakes, including how they are made, what tools you can use, for what purpose they can be used, and what implications that has. Basically what I told you about, only 16% of managers know this. So how do we fight back? How can leadership prepare for these situations? The answer is not just with tech, but with policy, with culture, and courage. You need to establish deepfake response protocols. Companies must treat deepfakes as a form of digital harassment and violence. They have to create clear procedures for verifying content before acting on anonymous tips. They need to involve legal, HR, and digital forensics team early on. And they need to establish or update acceptable technology use policies. But they also need to train leaders to recognize digital abuse, know about the risks, and know the protocols they hopefully have. They need to educate managers and HR professionals on how deepfakes work and how they are used to target marginalized employees. Make it clear in your company environments, acting on unverified digital content is not neutral, it's complicity. Also, always protect the victim and pursue the perpetrator. When a deepfake surfaces, the default should always to protect the person targeted and not to question their integrity, just like in analog violence cases. Offer also immediate support, counseling, and legal resources, and be very practical. Some examples. You need to offer psychosocial support, have experts available. You need to help with getting deepfakes off of the internet. That probably needs legal resources. Help with identifying the perpetrator. You need forensics and tech experts for it. Support the employee in legal defense against the perpetrator if he can be identified. And if that is an employee, fire and sue him yourself as a company. Zero tolerance is needed. Also, clear the reputation of the targeted employee inside and outside. That needs corporate communications, but do it in a sensitive way and always consensual with the victim. And then you need to create a culture of digital allyship. Encourage employees to report manipulated content. Make sure they know how and where they can do this. And reward those who speak up when they see digital abuse. Make it known this behavior will not be tolerated, be it online or offline. Women used to worry about being misquoted. Now we have to worry about being digitally impersonated too. But we can do something about it. We are not powerless, especially as leaders. We can build workplaces where deepfakes don't derail careers because they are recognized, they are rejected, and they are condemned. We can create cultures where women don't have to prove they are real to be believed. And we can lead, not just in protecting ourselves, but in demanding better systems for everyone. We can make sure other leaders understand AI and the workplace is more than inserting AI into business processes. It is also about protecting your workplace against malicious use of AI. This is an ethical imperative for any responsible business, but it also makes business sense. Let's not wait for the next scandal. Let's act now with vigilance, with empathy, and with effective processes in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anka. It strikes me just personally, my day job, because I also have one of those in addition to the consulting work I do, is in the media and entertainment space. And there is a very vivid debate, of course, around IP and the role of AI, while at the same time needing to adopt AI to be a more effective company that penetrates in a digital way the culture. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking of we talked about leadership inside the organization and leaders individually, but you're also talking about, Anka, just the leadership that companies need to undertake, right? In so many ways, the external world is forcing companies to really rethink the way in which they bring whatever policies or tools into their organization in a way that they can responsibly protect their workforce and also protect the kind of work that they're doing. So thank you so much for that, for bringing sort of that connection of the responsibility in adopting a tool, not simply thinking what the utility of that tool is. Okay, so I had promised that we would have enough time for questions. Oh, excellent. And so I expect a very long queue at that mic, so get ready, please.
Hello, my name is Nancy Gomez. I'm half Chilean and half Peruvian. Why I'm saying that is because in Chile, they're tackling a subject about AI, and my question is about what do you think about including our digital ID in the Constitution? Because in Chile, they're doing it.
I am not sure in what way it would be included in the Constitution, but there should definitely be a legal or a law dealing with digital identities. They do exist, but they usually exist only not in a holistic way. There is nothing like, at least not in Germany as I know of, there's not a digital ID law, but there are, for example, digital government laws which mention that there exists something like a federal ID which you can use for it. But it should be a holistic law dealing with the topic of digital identity. And digital identity theft is, I think, indirectly dealt with in other laws, but there should be one law covering everything around digital identities. I see that. I never thought about the Constitution, and right now I can't think of how. I mean, we have Article number 1 in our Constitution. The dignity of no human being should be violated, and that transfers to your digital dignity as well. So it does not need an extra article to do that, I think.
Okay, next question.
Good evening to the panelists and the rest of the participants. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights. I am Sue from ABB, working as a Global Diversity and Inclusion Specialist. My question is, while we acknowledge that the current focus is on responsible leadership and upskilling amongst employees, just from a future readiness standpoint, I wanted to understand from your experience, how do you see the evolution of, say, annual performance review after AI has become like sort of an unpaid intern colleague working next to all of us in our jobs? So how do you see the parameters evolving in how we look at performance review of employees? Thank you.
Interesting question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And you know, there's an involvement in at least 2, if not 3 ways. One is around how performance reviews themselves are being conducted. Yeah? So now many of you might have the 360s in their companies. More and more companies are already using Gen AI to support them in the write-ups, in the conversations, in the interpretation of data, in the next steps to make performance reviews no longer annual, but have it to be something that you can use with employees, with leaders, much more frequently. That's number one. But your question goes to the core of, in a hybrid work environment, yeah, am I maybe also evaluating the Gen AI, or is it the person that I'm evaluating differently because of their usage? And what I think will happen, I'm seeing early signs of this, that the parameters based on which leaders are being assessed will be amended. They'll need to become more holistically the word that we've been using before and include parameters around the adaptability and the speed with which they are using tech, the ethical boundaries in which they are using tech, the question around their critical thinking abilities and examples for how they apply this judgment when using tech. So to your precise question, I believe that there will be a strong shift in leadership models that lay as the foundation of performance management around the world. Yeah, very well observed. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Tabia Hussain. I am a master's student in Information and Communication Engineering. I have an opportunity to involve some research and currently came to know that in Japan there is some ongoing research on the AI platforms, and they found that whoever the person using the AI for their regular life, professional or personals, their brain capacity for working is much lower than the regular person who are not using the AI. So it's not that it is challenging that we do not need to use the AI in our professional or personal life. Such like a leader we have already, if this decreasing our brain capacity, then how long we can use this in further?
As a neuroscientist, I have to, and then I let the other panelists. So indeed, and I've seen more than this one study around our ability of our brain to function and focus after a time in which we were asked ourselves to research articles, interpret them, and gave an answer. So basically there was a test around, can you then recite the different articles, what you think about them, and literally testing the functions of the brain with regards to attention and memory, compared to after you've just let simply AI do this. That's why I'm literally adamant. There are few things in the world other than inclusion that I'm so adamant about, which is the critical thinking portion. We need to be aware that we will lose some of our abilities just because we don't train them anymore. The brain is like a muscle, metaphorically, that needs to be trained. If we don't train it anymore on research, on asking questions, it will lose its ability to think. Therefore, critical thinking and ways to enhance it will be absolutely essential. Yeah, thank you.
I would like to add something to that from 2 perspectives. I just read about a study where they also tested students who used Gen AI to create text. And several minutes after they created the text and they read the text, they had no memory at all of what was in the text. So if we, I know that it's very easy, fast and efficient to create intelligent-looking text with ChatGPT or similar tools. But if it leads to me not even knowing what is in the text, it's probably not a very good idea. So it's very challenging for leadership to find the right balance between efficiency and making your own people stupid. So that is one example, and I come from a tech background. I also worked 15 years in the ICT industry, and I'm very close to that tech community and to the IT security community as well. And at the Munich Security or Information Security Conference early this year, there was one topic particularly discussed, and that is using AI for coding. You can replace lots of coding personnel with AI, relatively okay-ish, but you always need an experienced coder to quality check, because sometimes AI just codes something very stupid and dangerous for the company. So you can get rid of entry-level personnel and coders, but you need the experienced one. That works fine for now. But what in 5 years? So where are the new experienced ones? Where are they coming from when we don't hire any new ones anymore? So we have to not only think about short-term wins, but also about medium and long-term consequences and losing talent. And that is indeed an ICT security issue, because you are then an easy target and cyber threats are growing, not shrinking.
Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matilda Molokela, and I'm from South Africa, but I'm studying economics in the US. My question is in regards to AI's negative impact on global warming because of the amount of electricity it uses. How can leadership contribute to reducing this negative impact on our planet? Thank you.
Oh, wow, that's an excellent question that I would want us to address on a sustainability panel, is actually what I'd like to say. But there were some other sessions where we talked about external risks around climate change and how companies are looking at developing plans to deal with their sort of carbon footprint and their use of resources. I think that it shouldn't be just AI specific, it should be part of the broader conversation of sustainability and ESG practices for any company. So short answer, but I think it's a very specific topic I wouldn't be able to answer.
Well, I'm dealing with the topic for a longer time. Even in the Bundestag, sustainability and digitalization was one of my strong topics, and I was inquiring the government about it, but also reading studies about it. So I know that all the big digital oligopolies are correcting their predictions on when they will be climate neutral. They eliminated all those goals because of AI. Their use of water and energy is just skyrocketing. And the question was, what can companies do about it? And one answer I would give to that is, think in every single case, do you really need it? Yeah? In many cases, AI is just so hype that very often companies, but even public authorities, tend to just do it. And very often it makes no sense, and it even leaves the user no choice. So when I Google something, I get always an AI summary, although I may not even want it. So we should develop applications which not automatically and per default always include AI components, when there may be lots of users who do not even want it. So you can opt in instead of opt out. With Google, you can opt out if you add to your search -AI, then you don't get that summary, but nobody knows it, so it's not really working. But we have to think about it. When I did an inquiry to the federal government several times in several years, what do you use AI for? My first question was always, what problem is this AI system meant to solve? And the first 2 years, I did not get an answer on this first question, and it says it all, because very often they don't even know what problem it is meant to solve. And if you don't know that, AI is probably not the solution to your problem.
Great, thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Victoria Howard, working for Deutsche Telekom, shaping our new AI products. So AI is in the center of our corporate strategy, and I definitely want to better prepare myself to be a better leader in this constantly changing world. So if we look ahead in the next 3 to 5 years, my question is, what kind of leadership qualities or traits will become obsolete because of this new era, because of constantly changing technology? And I have no clue how things are going to be changed in the next 5 years. What's your advice on how can I make myself more future-proof as a leader?
Yeah, I'm going to pick that up, and you can, of course, add on to that. So I think the question probably is twofold. becomes obsolete and where can I focus on? So what becomes obsolete, I think, and this is not just in the era of AI, but also in the terms of how leadership develops is, and I'm going to put it on a plagative way, the old style of leadership. So if we talk about top-down leadership, if we talk about hierarchical ways of working in terms of junior, senior, etc., I truly believe this will become more obsolete because we have more focus on expert journeys, which will help us then to focus on, for example, AI data experts, but also software experts, etc., whatever is needed. And those will have a way stronger voice regardless of the title they're holding. Because it speaks about what they know and what they can bring to the table and not the position they're holding. So I do believe that that's an essential point. Where we can upskill is on our critical thinking, you mentioned that, but also on the coaching aspect. Name it servant leadership, name it coaching, but really understand what each and every individual needs to bring the best to the table and how to implement the technologies we're having. It's not just AI, it can also be RPAs, can be lower forms of digitization, automation, etc., how to bring that to the table in the best extent possible and how to coach everyone to use what they need in their respective way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Hernandez. So thank you so much for the insightful conversation. My passion are really in regards to people and technology. I'm working in Siemens, and I'm really involved in so many creation of artificial intelligence solutions. And to be honest, I'm really struggling with adoption. So one of the questions is, how do you think that leaders can really help with the adoption of the solution that we are creating? Second one, and also the diversity ambassador at Siemens, how do you think that AI can help to promote inclusion?
I can just share a few examples on the first one and then happy for others to take the second one as well. But on the first one, what we have seen is impactful is just to implement it in our daily life works and to offer formats for our employees to use them. So for example, what we have implemented are hackathons or Gen AI challenges, etc., and give the room to employees to really use those and make it fun. So everybody loves a little bit of competition. So have scoring boards, have leadership boards, etc., on who has, used certain AI solutions the most, who has come up with a fun song for a team challenge or anything, who has used it for job descriptions, and then have those competitions and also reward output, number one. Number two is to really have someone with the knowledge, the tech knowledge, sit next to someone who does not have it, but who has process knowledge to really, because we see many employees struggling in terms of, I have my daily work, but where do I even see potential to adopt AI to it? And then we just combine two experts in terms of functional and processes with tech knowledge, and then those two can really identify the potential to have AI make daily doings and daily tasks easier. And as a third part for the learning part, in terms of not just learning but adopting it, we implemented, for example, deal hours, drop everything and learn, and have those in the calendar from the top management, send out a blocker so everybody makes it a priority, and then either use it yourself, just use that hour, or form small groups, have hands-on experiences and sessions with experts so that everybody in the session within that hour a week can just use the tools you're offering in your company.
I would like to answer on the second question, the inclusion. I start with the contrary. Companies can do something wrong and increase exclusion, for example, if they don't consider the bias topic enough. And that starts very simple. I'm very often at conferences, and then company representations or presentations from CEOs, CTOs in most cases. They have AI pictures on all of them, and they look extremely stereotypical. And this excludes people who see those pictures, and that can marketing communication, product communication, the pictures on everything. If they look very stereotypical, sexualized, etc., that is increasing exclusion. But you can indeed use AI to improve inclusion in many different ways. For example, the topic of accessibility. For hearing impaired people, you can have automatic transcripts, you can have immediate subtitling, you can even have people choose their language. You can very easily offer something like, explain this, you know, the long agreements you all tick, yes, I read them, and you didn't? Yeah, the consent form. I mean the long stuff with the cookies things. You know what I mean, yeah? The one everybody accepts and nobody has read about it. Disclaimers, they are always in a legal language really nobody understands. And AI can help to translate that in very normal language. And in Germany, we are very big bureaucracy. Normal people very often don't understand forms. And if then you come from a different country and you don't speak the language so well, you are lost entirely. I help lots of refugees, and I very often, you know. And you can use chatbots as forms, and then you can chat with the form. And when the form is asking me, do you get social aid for paragraph such and such, and I have no idea what it is, I can ask the form and say, what do you mean with it? And then it says, I don't know, Hartz IV, Germans know what I mean. And then I say yes or no. And I can enter in the form data in just any format. I can, for my birthday, I can write a numbers format, I can write it in words. And if I write something the form does not understand, the form is asking me back. And that makes for forms having a much higher quality when they reach the authority, so people can have more access to their rights and get social support, for example. Or they can learn a different language easier and then get it easier into the workplace. So there are many, many, many ways where AI can really help with inclusion.
And if I made one very specific point to me, and you may call me an optimist, but I'm not naive. Gen AI will help, in particular, women conquer areas that before were largely male-dominated. You mentioned coding before, and we can be critical about how Gen AI helps coding, etc., right? But now the skill is no longer the deep technical knowledge that we might not have as many women savvy in as we would like to. The skill now becomes much more precise prompting, a thinking ahead, a holistic understanding of the problem, where I think that women will have a unique advantage.
I want to say one way in which I've used it on an inclusion front, just to be very specific, is that for many months I had wanted to understand what our job descriptions like actually included by way of language and whether there was a bent toward bias, right, in them. And so there's two ways you can approach it. One is you can get a tool that helps you write them proactively. And then another way is that you can do an audit, which can be very work intensive. So we've had the tool that sort of writes them proactively, but what sort of tends to happen is that then, because I work in a very specific kind of niche industry, is that people then modify those because it's this thing that is really a skill that is so. So one of the things that I did is that, and it only took like a couple of days, was to sort of globally audit what the final job description was and identify the instances where there was bias and compare that to sort of who the final candidates were on the slate, right? I have no technical ability whatsoever to like create those spreadsheets to do that, and also don't have the people power to do that across the globe. But it was very convenient to be able to just sort of ask AI to sort of look at all of our published, right, roles, and then to help me understand what from the spreadsheets that I get reported to sort of put those two sets of information together. So I think that there are ways in which AI is about how do we leverage that tool to do the things that we're critically thinking and understand are not working well in our organization. That's the potential power of it, but like any technological tool, we have to tell it how to help us, right? I tell my phone what to do to help me organize our life. It doesn't offer automatically to do that. Yeah. Okay, 2 last questions so we can end exactly on time. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Isabelin. I'm a student from Cambodia, but I study here in HTW Berlin. My question, I know that it's a stupid question, and you can ignore it.
No stupid
It's off
question.
topic.
No stupid question.
It's off topic. But Dr. Spelling-Magro said something, focus on the being, then on the doing. And then the last slide of director from Mercedes says something, start now, like now on day one. I'm just curious what you are leaders, what your daily life look like from morning to the evening, and what do you do when you spare time? What does leaders do on the weekdays? Like when you woke up, what do you do? And then before you go to bed, what do you do? I think habits might change life, and I want to be like you one day, like sit there and become a director. But what do you do to become like this? Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to start? Anka, bitte.
You know, I think we all feel so flattered. I'm going to speak of the other participants too. We're going to invite you either virtually in whichever way or form to a day in our life. So we'll make a separate session and we'll share all the details with you.
Very good. Yeah. Last question. No
Sounds
pressure.
like there might be lots of interest in that.
We'll invite the whole room to spend.
It's Narelle Hooper. I wanted to offer, to build, it's been so interesting, just to build an example in Australia of a company which was digitally focused. Now their entire strategy is arced around AI. And the CEO, they've been running free workshops for anyone that was interested. The CEO explained how using Claude had assisted his performance reviews, and he uploaded his profiles and his transcripts of the conversations, and it was showing us, had the project to help improve that, and it showed him where he was talking too much, where he wasn't actually listening to the feedback, and really improved the process of performance reviews. And it helped not just him, but it helped the people in that. So I wanted to offer that. And then the other example they're now using to assist in coaching at a football club as well for the players. So I just wanted to build on some examples you had.
Thank you. That's super helpful. All right. So that's our panel for today. I'm walking away with a lot of good nuggets. Be before you do. Remain adaptive. Continuous learning is important. Responsibility when thinking of AI and any tools that we bring into the organization or think of adopting, and thinking of the impact on our society. And I just wanted to thank everyone again for being here today. We did it. We are done.